Welcome to the Stay Ready Real Estate Podcast, where we stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I'm your host, Emeka. And what this podcast is all about is letting you know that regular people like you and me can invest in real estate to become wealthy. You don't need millions and billions of dollars to invest in real estate. You can actually invest in real estate with little to no money down. I'm just here to let you know that as long as you have time and can take action, you can become wealthy. And all it takes is a couple of years for you to honestly become financially free. So tune in. Hope you enjoy. What is going on, Stay Ready fam? It's your boy Emeka here. And yes, I'm driving. And what we're going to be talking about today on the podcast is wholesalers. We're going to talk about wholesalers. Wholesalers can be a great asset in your repertoire, and you just got to understand where they come from, what their motivations are, and understand how to, I'm not going to say work them, but understand, the incentives that they have, right? So what is a wholesaler first and foremost? A wholesaler is a person who, let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say I am door knocking and I find someone who wants to sell their home for 100,000, but I know that it could sell once it's fixed up for, let's say, 300,000. So what I will tell someone is, hey, the owner of the home who owns 100,000, I'll say, hey, I can sell your home for 110,000. What I can do is I'll find somebody, we'll go under contract, I'll find somebody who's going to buy it for 110,000, and then the owners will make 110,000, and the owners would be happy. So what I would do as a wholesaler is, hey, if they only cost 50 grand to fix it up, I'm going to find an investor like myself, like you who are listening. I'm going to find an investor who's going to buy this thing for 150,000. So I can make a quick 40 grand. The owner is happy because they make 10,000 more than they were thinking of. So they get their 110, I get my 40, I wash my hands, and boom, the investor's happy because all they have to do is put 50 into it, and that's a 100K spread because hopefully it's actually worth 300,000. Now the issue is that ethical? Some people say it's not. Some people say it's fine because the investor knows what he's getting into. But I will say you just got to understand what you're getting into. I'm not here to talk crap on wholesalers because everyone in investing knows what the wholesalers' motivations are. They are here to make a quick buck, and that's it. So you can expect them to be ethical because at the end of the day, they're not really worried about the homeowner, quite frankly. Some are. Some people do have a little bit more ethics towards it, but they are here to make money, right? No one is just in wholesaling typically just to, be nice, right? And be nice and get the homeowner the most money as possible, or else they would just be a realtor, right? And I bought a home for 145 from a wholesaler, and quite frankly, I think they made 30, like quick 30 grand off me, right? The homeowner could have made more if they went directly to me, but I wouldn't have been able to find this deal without the wholesaler's work, door knocking, cold calling, etc. So to the wholesaler's eyes, they're going to get paid. They're trying to get paid for what they're worth. And I don't know what that percentage is, and I'm not going to do quick math here. But now you know what a wholesaler is. Now, how do you work with a wholesaler, right? Most wholesalers have a list of clients and they hype everything up, right? And I say that because at the end of the day, everything's a negotiation. But what a wholesaler will do is say, hey, this property is going to be worth, $1 million. And then, I'll sell it to you for 700 grand. And they're trying to make a quick 100 grand, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. I just gave you a great example. However, always fact check them, right? Always trust your numbers and never just trust the numbers that a wholesaler has. Because the reality of the situation is they're not realtors, right? Because, you know, they would be in the business of realty, buying and selling on a consistent basis, right? And then also, most wholesaling companies have multiple sales reps under their belt. So they have a bunch of their own people you have a bunch of their own people competing against each other, and they make a quick commission. What I've learned, and this is just from my experience, and forgive my camera moving over, is a lot of these wholesalers are young gunners who are trying to get in the space of, get honestly just trying to get in sales. A friend of a friend told them about it, and hey, if you can get some investors, if you get 30 investors and reach out to them based off what their needs are, then you can make a quick buck off of it. Yes, that's true, but what I always find is interesting is they, at the end of the day, are salesmen or saleswomen, right? So you're the investor, you're actually doing a deal. Most wholesalers have not even bought their own, rental property themselves. And it's not a knock by any means, right? It's just a reality, right? So, if they can truly find a good deal and they understand how it works as an investor and they could buy it themselves, why not? I personally don't know if they have specific contracts that doesn't allow them to, but you have to understand, don't get swindled by a wholesaler. Their numbers may be accurate enough, but at the end of the day, they really don't know. They're not in this space, right? They're going by what other people say, and that's okay, right? I'm like I said, I am not here to bash wholesalers, but what I am here is to tell you the truth. Is I can go back and forth with a wholesaler, tell them all my reasons, and they will agree with me. But the other reality is they're most likely to get somebody, a new investor or someone with a bunch of cash who was just trusting their numbers, buying the property sight unseen, and then end up with a bad deal. It happens very often. The wholesaler just wants to make the quickest buck and the most amount. And once you put in that earnest money deposit, typically it's not refundable from a wholesaler. Once once the wholesaler gets you under contract, it's also typically as is. What does as is mean? That means you're going to buy this property as it is, and you can't take it back. There is no inspection because that's not why we're wholesaling this deal, right? We're wholesaling this deal so you can buy it the way it is, the way I said it, and I can wash my hands and forget about it, right? Some may check in on you afterwards to see how the deal is going to keep the relationship, because the relationship is a very key thing for them in order to make sure they have a repeat buyer. However, like I said, don't get swindled by a wholesaler. Understand your deal, trust your underwriting, because that's what you have to base everything off of, is your underwriting. So what my suggestion to you is, if you're getting in this space, if you're trying to do flips, because flips is great, they also do land and multifamily, but usually the entry level investor here is trying to do something smaller to get their feet wet. Even though I say go big first time, go for the quadplex, go for the land, build, build, build. I wish I would have did, but trust your underwriting, trust the work you're putting in, because the wholesalers are going to find you good deals. They're going to find you good deals. They're not in this business for ethics. You want to be ethical, so be it. That's great. I love ethics, I love integrity, but one of the biggest issues about wholesalers, or the complaining I hear about wholesalers, is the ethics. They're not in this space for that, right? They're in this space to make money and sell, right? If you want to go directly to the homeowner and, you know, give them the best bang for your buck, shout out to you. There's no issue in that. But most of the downsides for wholesalers that I say is, number one, you're going to hear the ethical problem, and it might be true, it might be not. However, hopefully, what the wholesalers are doing is finding a price that works for them and being real with them and being honest about what they're going to do with the deal, right? Number two is, don't just trust their numbers. They're going to inflate all their numbers to make it look good for the investor, like me and you. And that's their job, right? They're salesmen, right? What do salesmen do? Salesmen people do. They sell, right? They don't necessarily need to be in the space of what they're selling. They just need to know how to get a product across and sell it to you. And then number three, don't argue, right? It's okay to go back and forth, maybe if they're pointing out some good things, but trust your underwriting. Your underwriting is going to be very important, especially when it comes to a wholesaler, because it's going to be an as-is property, and they are not. Once they sell it, they're going to wash their hands. They're not going to care what you do. They're not going to care who you are, unless you're going to continue to buy from them. Because if you're going to be a hassle every time, they don't need to come to you. They're probably just going to come to you when they don't have any other buyers. So build a relationship with a wholesaler because it is very important, and it can definitely help you make money and do deals. And I've bought, 2 deals from wholesalers, and quite frankly, it hasn't gone horrible, right? There's some underwriting things that I could have done better, but at the end of the day, I bought right, and that's the best thing about wholesalers. Most of the deals are not on market, so in a sense, it's a pocket listing, even though they have a bunch of different buyer lists, right? I'm not the only investor that they talk with. However, build a relationship with them, give them honest feedback because they truly do appreciate that. And then, typically speaking, when deals fall out, that deal can be yours. And then, once you do a deal with them, and once you built that relationship, and once they like you, then they're going to come to you before it even lists because they know that they can trust you and trust that you can close. So, the topic of today is wholesalers. They can be great, but they can also be shisty. So, when it comes to wholesalers and the deals that they provide to you, don't trust their numbers, trust your own numbers, and understand what the wholesaler's job is. And then you'll have a complete picture and you can make the right judgment, and the right judgment that's best for you. Till next time, stay ready, fam. See ya. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I really hope you enjoyed. My goal with these podcasts is to help you get 1% better every single day. And if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and go to my YouTube channel because I post real life deals and the ongoing things that I'm doing to let you know that I'm walking the talk and not just talking about it, not just yapping. So, hope to see you next week. Till next time.